Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first reading and first public hearing of the fiscal year 2026 millage rate and budget for the city of St. Petersburg. So for those who haven't gone through this process before, it's a pretty straightforward process. This is governed by statute. So what you're going to see me doing is reading from a script. It's in our agenda. It's attachment A. So if anyone's interested, they could follow that script. And for council members or new council members, you could see the script tells you exactly when the motions happen and public comment and all that. So it'll be very clear which steps are coming based on what I'm indicating from the script. So at this point, I will start. We'll start the hearing. This is the start of the first public hearing on the fiscal year 2026 millage rate and budget. The purpose of this public hearing is to discuss the mayor's recommended budget, approve a proposed millage rate, and approve the recommended budget/appropriations ordinance for fiscal year 2026 as a tentative budget for fiscal year 2026. Prior to the public comment, the first substantive issue discussed shall be the percentage increase in millage rate over the rollback rate necessary to fund the budget, if any, and the specific purpose for which ad valorem tax revenues are being increased. That issue will be discussed by the mayor and his staff after the title to the budget/appropriations ordinance is read. And City Clerk, can you please read the title of the budget/appropriations ordinance?
Yes, Madam Chair. Proposed ordinance number 619H, an ordinance making appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2026, making appropriations for the payment of the operating expenses of the City of St. Petersburg, Florida, including its utilities, and for the payment of principal and interest of revenue bonds and other obligations of the City of St. Petersburg, Florida, making appropriations for the capital improvement program of the City of St. Petersburg, Florida, making appropriations for the independent special districts of the City of St. Petersburg, Florida, adopting this appropriations ordinance as the budget for the City of St. Petersburg, Florida for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2026, providing for related matters, and providing an effective date. The second reading and second public hearing for this item is scheduled for September 25th, 2025, and we do have some cards, Madam Chair.
Okay. Next, we have general remarks. Is the mayor going to make any general remarks? Okay. So next up, we have the Budget Director, Liz McCofsey, who's going to do a presentation.
All right, good evening, Chair and members of City Council. Before we begin the presentation, if anyone has specific questions or concerns regarding the assessed value of their property, exemptions or classification related to your property, or information on the trim notices, tonight we have here with us Kevin McKeon, the Deputy of Assessment Administration, and Jeffrey Haynes, the Director of Residential Appraisal from the Pinellas County Property Appraiser's Office with us today. If anyone's had any questions, you can follow them downstairs to the Community Resources Room, and they can answer any questions you may have. For those attending virtually, please contact the Pinellas County Property Appraiser's Office at 727-464-3207 or email Mike at pcpao.org. So this evening is the first of two public hearings on the fiscal year 2026 budget for the City of St. Petersburg. Florida Statutes 200.065, or the Truth in Millage Act, also referred to as the TRIM Act, requires a specific process for our discussion tonight. The order of the process is laid out in Attachment A of the backup materials. The City Clerk has provided the first reading of the FY26 tentative budget ordinance, and in just a moment, I will review with Council and the public the tentative FY26 budget and highlight some of the changes since the Mayor's recommended budget. We will then hear from public and upon conclusion of this presentation. After the public comment period and additional discussion and deliberation by City Council, Council will be asked to take action on 3 items, and each of these actions will need to be done as a standalone motion. The first action is the adoption of the proposed millage rate for FY26. The next is the adoption of the FY26 tentative budget ordinance, and then the adoption of the FY26 budget resolution as the tentative budget for the City of St. Petersburg. So under the TRIM statutes or TRIM process, the first item of substance to be discussed is the percent increase, if any, in millage over the rollback rate. For the purposes of the FY26 budget, the rollback rate is 6.2083 mils, and is the millage rate that would generate roughly the same amount of ad valorem revenues in FY26 as the city received in FY25. Under the TRIM statutes, we're allowed to recognize ad valorem revenue associated with new taxable value added to the tax base, so the rollback rate generates slightly higher revenue in 26 than the city is scheduled to receive in 25. The proposed FY26 millage rate is 6.4525 and represents a 3.93% increase over the rollback rate. The year-over-year increase in ad valorem revenue from FY25 to FY26 is $10.452 million. The second step in the state required TRIM process is to discuss the reasons ad valorem tax revenues are being increased. A major reason for the increase in ad valorem revenue is to provide the resources needed for wage increases for all city employees, including police and fire rescue. The key areas of investment plan for the FY26 budget are aligned with the Mayor's 5 pillars for progress. Under the Education and Youth Opportunities pillar, there is funding to continue programs such as the Mayor's Future Readiness Academy, the Year-Round Youth Employment Program, Youth Development Grants, and literacy and STEAM programs such as Shirley Proctor Puller Foundation and the USF Marine Science Center at Clam Bayou. Under the Equitable Development, Arts, and Business Opportunities pillar, we look to fund the continuation of many of our economic and workforce development and arts programs, while adding funding for new programming including individual artist grants and poetry festival. Under the Neighborhood Health and Safety pillar, we're continuing to fund neighborhood and public safety programs like the CALL program, community impact grants and programs, the Safe Summer program, the Healthy Neighborhood Store program, and the Healthy Food Action program. For the Housing Opportunities for All pillar, there will be funding to continue our progress on the 10-year Housing Opportunities for All agenda and provide resources for various social service programs. And in the environmental infrastructure and resilience pillar, the tentative budget will have funding for projects that protect our environment, increase our resilience, and improve our city's infrastructure, including the St. Pete Agile Resistance or SPAR program. The increase in ad valorem is based on a 4.93% increase in 2025 property values over FY24. This chart shows the 10-year history of property tax revenues in relation to public safety costs. You can see that in FY26, the ad valorem revenues will cover all public safety costs for the city. This slide illustrates the calculation of the millage rate for FY26. The first step in the calculation is to determine the value of 1 mil. To do this, we take the gross property value and then multiply it by 96%, which results in $35.471 billion in value for budgeting purposes. We then divide this 96% of gross taxable value amount by 1,000, and that gives us the value of 1 mil as $35.471 million. The second step is to look at our general fund requirements, which total $411.763 million, and net out the other sources of revenue other than ad valorem taxes, which totals $182.9 million, to arrive at the amount of required ad valorem taxes, or $228.875 million. The third and final step is to divide the required ad valorem taxes, which is B on this slide, by the value of 1 mil, which is shown as A on this slide, to get to the 6.4525 mils required. This slide illustrates a typical tax bill for a resident for the city of St. Petersburg. The city of St. Petersburg makes up 30% of this homeowner's tax bill, or about 30 cents of every ad valorem tax dollar paid by property owners. The school system with its two components of the tax bill make up 36%, and Pinellas County makes up 22% of the total taxes. The balance of 12% is made up of other various taxing authorities. We'll now move into a discussion of the changes to the FY26 budget since the mayor's recommended budget was submitted on July 15th. All of the information is included in more detail in Attachment B, Recap of Changes. There were no changes to the general fund revenue since the recommended budget. We do have changes in requirement or expenditures in the general fund, and they can be found on page 1 of Attachment B of the backup. The change in the Housing and Neighborhood Service Administration Department is due to a new program called Fluoride for Families. All of the other department changes listed on the slide are due to position changes in FY25 since the recommended budget. The change in the contingency amount is the net change amount needed to balance the general fund. Information on revenue changes in other city funds can be found on page 2 of Attachment B. The change in the Local Housing Assistance Fund is to account for a decrease in expected SHIP grant revenue for FY26. And all of the other revenue changes listed are needed to match the proposed utility rates and transfers in the FY26 rate study. Requirements or expense changes for other city funds are broken down on page 2 of the recap of changes. The change again in the Local Housing Assistance Fund is to account for the decrease in expected SHIP grant revenue for FY26. The items for the water resources operating, water resources debt, stormwater utility, stormwater debt service, sanitation operating, and sanitation equipment replacement fund changes are to update budget amounts to correspond to the FY26 rate study. And the change in the billing and collections fund is related to FY25 position transaction changes since the recommended budget. In our CIP program, there are no changes on the revenue side of our CIP program, but we do have one change on the requirement side, and the details are on page 3. The change in the Recreation and Culture Capital Improvement Fund does not affect the overall fund's budget amount and involves moving funds between projects. Due to a change in the Mahaffey Theater's capital project priorities, we're moving $400,000 from the Mahaffey Theater improvements and $1.5 million from the Mahaffey Theater Public Address System improvements projects to the Mahaffey Theater roof improvement project. In this next section, we'll give a quick overview using tables, charts, and graphs to illustrate the city's FY26 budget. These tables are included in the FY26 budget in brief, which has been posted on the city's website, and we also have copies available tonight. The total operating revenue budget for the FY26 is $974.3 million. Charges for services make up the largest category at $422.2 million, or about 43.3%, followed by taxes at $302 million, or 31%. The FY26 operating budget is $976.071 million and is about 7.6 higher than the FY25 operating budget. The Water Resources Operating Fund increased by 12.3% year over year from FY25. The General Fund and Reserves budget increased by 4.5% from $394.489 million to $412.285 million. The total general fund revenue budget is $411.763 million, and the general fund revenue comes from various sources as illustrated in this chart. The largest single source of revenues for the general fund are taxes and include our ad valorem or property taxes, franchise taxes, and utility taxes, and they total $302.048 million, or 73.35% of the total revenue budget. Intergovernmental revenues, which include the half-cent sales tax and state shared revenue, is the second largest source for the general fund at $43 million, or 10.45%. The total general fund expenditure budget for FY26 is also $411.763 million, and the city's general fund is categorized into our 6 city administrations. The single largest general fund investment made by the city is in the public safety administration, which is 53.1% of the budget and includes our police and fire departments. The general government administration makes up the next largest category at 19.7% and includes departments such as budget, finance, legal, and human resources. And our third largest general fund investment is made in our quality of life type programming provided by the Community Enrichment Administration at 16.8% and includes our parks and recreation departments and our libraries. Looking at the general fund budget broken out by expenditure type, the single largest expenditure category in the general fund is wages and benefits at $278.5 million, or 67.7% of the total. And services and commodities make up the second largest at 19.9%, or $81.7 million. The FY26 CIP budget includes a total of $202.022 million in capital projects. The Water Resources Capital Project Fund accounts for the largest piece of this budget at $126.12 million, or 62.4%, followed by our Penny for Pinellas projects, which account for 18.5%, or $37.3 million. The total for our 5-year CIP plan is $1.049 billion. And then on this slide, we show the fund balance commitment categories that council will need to reaffirm these or other categories when the budget is adopted. We do not need to set aside amounts for each category, as this will be determined after the FY25 fiscal year is closed and we have our year-end actual results. And at that time, we'll have a better idea of how much fund balance is available to allocate to each category. And the commitment categories can then be funded as part of the year-end cleanup in November. And in closing, the second and final budget public hearing will be held at City Hall in Council Chamber on September 25th at 6 p.m. And information on the city's budget is available on the city's website. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. This is the beginning of the public comment portion of the hearing. The general public shall be allowed to speak and ask questions prior to the adoption of the proposed millage rate and tentative budget by City Council. Clerk, do we have any?
We do have some cards.
Publicly announced the
Huh?
We do have cards.
6.
I missed something?
Number 6.
Yep. I'm sorry, you're good.
I thought it was fine.
You're good.
We'll call speakers 2 at a time, Madam Chair.
Yes. And for those who are speaking, 3-minute time limit applies, and you announce your name and address before speaking.
Right. First 2 speakers, Madam Chair, Stephen Sherwood and Jordanis Mola. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Good evening, Council. Hope I was doing well on 9/11. 3 minutes isn't going to do it for me, and I just wanted to plead to you guys at this
Your
point.
name and address for.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, this is my second time, visiting you guys. Stephen Sherwood, 155 Alameda Way, Northeast. Last time I was here, I was referencing the airport, and that was the first and last time I've seen you guys. But I don't know, budgets to me, when I do my budget, I start at 0. And what I'm seeing here is and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but $202 million for project funding. We're looking at, the numbers I came up with in a brief period of time just weren't making sense to me at all. Over a 7% increase over what we spent last year. I've never seen the roads so bad in this town since I've been here. I came here prior to 75, but I've been living here since 2005, and I've never seen the roads in worse condition. My car, I get aligned probably every 8 months. And these are supposed to be major roads. These aren't back roads, and I just don't know what's going on. I noticed that the lights have been out for 2 weeks along the waterfront there, between Snell Isle Bridge and Coffee Pot. Out. It looks like 2 of the poles across the bridge have been sitting there. Nothing. The sewer system, my neighbor got flooded. He told me there's only a pipe for the sewer system for the flood water that we had during the storms was only 13 inches. Last rain we had, I don't know 2 weeks ago or whatever, that came up over my curb. I couldn't even see where the water was supposed to be going down. And that wasn't even a major rain. I'd like to know what happened since last year. I mean, you had another increase with the utilities, and I thought that was supposed to pay for some of this stuff that the impact fees of these buildings that have been building downtown they weren't addressed at the time. I know that's history, but something's got to be resolved. So I would like to have a request for an extension of this to be able to come up and discuss it with somebody after my accountant looks at these numbers, because I don't believe what I saw. I'm not an accountant, but I want to have this done at my expense to see what else we can do. Also, there was a 7-page letter that was delivered to the city, the Doge of Florida or whatever that was. Crickets, what's that all about? What did that letter say? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Jordanos Mola. I am a resident of 2000 Gandy Boulevard North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33702. And I am here again to support the demands of the Save Our Streets campaign with Dream Defenders for more funding for youth programming and for more outreach. We want to stop violence in our communities, and our budget should reflect that. Across the country and here in St. Pete, one of the best indicators of where we see more violence is where there is a lack of investment in a local community. The city budget should be a people's budget, and we should reflect what the community actually wants, which based on our outreach is more accessible youth programming and more knowledge about them. While we know that organizations and both the city are hosting youth programs, many people in the neighborhood still don't know about them. We need to fund more and thorough active outreach to the community to make sure they can take advantage of these programs. The city needs to invest in paid more positions to expand its current engagement and outreach to the community in order to boost awareness and use the programs available to them. Like I mentioned at one of the last city council meetings back in July, we've met with both city council and the mayor, and some of the things that came out of those meetings was an idea to hire youth as part of this initiative to help conduct the outreach to both reach young audiences and also give the youth an opportunity to gain better leadership skills that they can utilize later in life. And we want this idea to become a reality. In the city drafted budget, under education and youth opportunities, and the Safe Summer Program, there's roughly about $2 million of grants for organizations to host youth program. And out of the $967 million budget, that is about 0.02% of the overall budget. Just for like visual purposes, we also like created a mini graph to show how that reflects. And in this sheet are 100 squares, each square representing 1% of the $967 million budget. And this top square with a thin line of blue is showing how 0.02% represents for grants for youth programming. And meanwhile, the budget proposes another increase for $10 additional million for police, which is about 17% over the overall budget, which you can see here represented in the 17 green squares in the overall budget diagram. There needs to be more investment in youth programming and investment in more comprehensive outreach to advertise and engage the community. This is what the community is asking for, and as city public officials, you should be prioritizing the needs of the community and championing for this investment.
Thank you. Next two speakers.
Jay James and Franklin Alves, please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hello. My name is Jay James. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And 2042 27th Street South. Lifelong resident of this here city, third generation native. My people have been here for over 100 years. And I say that all to say that I've been coming here for a long time. And for a lot of this time, we've been communicating with our neighbors, and they've been telling us the same things over and over. And we've been having conversations with y'all for a while. And not much seems to have changed. So I have a visual. These are split peas. For some reason, I have bags and bags of split peas in my house. So I decided to use them. These are a bag of split peas that represent the total budget of the city of about, $1 billion, I think. That's right? I don't know. A lot of money. This is the amount that is going to youth funding. Now look. Not even a handful. This versus this. And as I say, every time I'm come here, show me your budget and I'll show you your values. So is this really your values? Is this really your values? Giving pennies to our children? Is this really your values? It's getting really disheartening in some ways. I have the same conversations with y'all, with the mayor, with the mayor's office. We get told, oh, we came too late. Okay, we come early. Or you still came too late because we decided to, it's like y'all, we're getting the runaround on how you all want things done. And, we've been polite. We're dream defenders. If you know anything about us, we are a revolutionary organization that does direct action. And we've been nice. We've been going the way that you all say we should go within the proper channels. And yet, we still get the runaround. My community is suffering. For real. The job market is gone to total crap. Everything is going up. The rent's going up. My rent went up, 15-20% this year. The rents is going up. Duke has raised its rates a lot. Y'all are raising the utility rates a lot. Everything is going up, and that's just the finances. What are y'all doing for our kids? Y'all say you care about gun violence. The number one issue that people have said would help reduce gun violence is having before and after school programs for teenagers and other youth, and even young adults. But that is not reflected in the budget. This, come on now.
Hi, everybody. Franklin, 1026 9th Avenue South. I'm here today because I, of course, care about the investment that the city is making in its people. And I think the number one investment that we have to be revisiting is our investment in youth. It's not a problematic concern. it's a full-on public safety. As someone who sits for the membership chair of Kona, I attend, probably as my partner says, a little bit too many neighborhood meetings, but I get to see the breadth of what's happening in all these different neighborhoods. Some CSOs will talk about, hey, these are how many cars were stolen in your neighborhood, and another one at a different neighborhood will talk about, hey, these are how many found stolen cars that we have in your neighborhood. In my own experience in Campbell Park, over the last, I guess we'll go over kind of the last 6 months, we've had 2 hijacked cars, one that crashed into a house, and another one that crashed and killed someone, a senior in our community, an elder. Both of those were within the span of 4 months. We've had, even just a couple weeks ago, a bunch of teenagers murder a man in his 40s, just in the street. Trying to find resources to bring them back to our communities is practically impossible. I hear words that, hey, you know, people will come out. I actually just texted the residents that man was murdered in front of their house. They have a young child. No one has come to talk to them to make sure that they're okay, to check on their mental health. It's sad. And so these things are preventable. All of these situations are teenagers, they're children that are getting involved in these things. I've had neighbors, their kids knocking on my door, just bored out of their mind. They cannot get into programs. They don't know how to find them. It's too hard. And as the neighborhood starts shifting, right, we have a lot of investors within these communities. As they start to flip the houses, those realtors come in and, you know, see click fix and try to clean up the blocks. The sense of what these communities mean start to change, right? New residents move in, those neighborhood associations might spring up, and a lot of those things that come first are policing, right? See click fixing. And it's not necessarily reflective of what the community needs or what it's looking for. And policing is just not a long-term solution for what's happening here. We need meaningful investment in youth. We need real connections that will come out to communities to help people connect them to resources. This isn't like reinventing the wheel or asking something new. I mean, there's many times that many of you heard me talk about, I'm just calling offices for rehab assistance, for just general purposes to try to bring those resources to neighborhoods. There's not even flyers for people who don't have access to the internet, that have low internet literacy. And these are just easy things that we can do, but we really need to just review what we're investing in, look at the kids, think of our future, because we need to keep communities together, and investing in those youth and keeping that going is an enormous part of that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next two speakers.
There's 2 speakers, Madam Chair. Stephen Bearfield and I believe it's Latora Bowles. I believe that's the last name. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address City Council.
My name is Stephen Bearfield. I reside at 5036 Casilla Way South in St. Pete. Been in St. Pete for the second stint since 1992. Been involved with our sister cities programs for many, many years, and with SPIFs more recently. I am concerned that SPIFs as an organization, because we have 2 relationships with the city, one as an arts grant recipient and one as a contractor to operate sister cities. Because of a new rule in the arts grant program, we were not allowed to apply for an arts grant this year. I brought that to council and mayor's attention, I guess, a couple of months ago at a council meeting. And in looking at the budget, I see the $40,000 amount that is set for sister cities, but I don't see anything set aside for SPIFs. Perhaps it's tucked in another category. I'm not sure about that, but that's my concern, is that not be forgotten. We are looking at our 50th year having provided services to this community. We are thrilled that we are seeing about 3,000 students on a Thursday and about 3,000 students on a Friday, exposing them to literally dozens of cultures, practices, sounds, smells, looks, and so forth, and really want to continue to do that, and especially to celebrate the 50th year of accomplishing that this coming spring. And it'll be very difficult to do that without some grant support from the city. So I leave you with that thought. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Latora Bowles at 833 22nd Street South. Good evening, Chair and Council members. Again, I'm Latora Bowles, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Deuces Live, the only Main Street organization for the historic 22nd Street corridor. First, I want to thank you for your investment in the St. Pete's Main Street program, including the 55 annually allocated to the Deuces Live. Your support shows the city's commitment to small business corridors and cultural preservation. While we are grateful for that support, the reality is the 55K must stretch, not only across my salary as the executive director, but also our community programming. This is not sustainable. It does leave us without the ability to fully invest in the staff and resources needed to manage the corridor, to market our businesses, to provide meaningfully support to the entrepreneurs who are the backbone to the Deuces. That's why tonight I'm respectfully requesting an additional $45K of that budget for the Deuces Live. This increase will allow us to adjust the executive director's salary so it is aligned with the Main Street other programs, have a part-time assistant to kind of help with the marketing, with the events and administrative support, and establish a small business fund on the corridor. That way we can offer micro grants, we can do emergency loans, even help with paying essential bills like lights and water, just so they can keep their doors open. And importantly, it will ensure the Deuces Live can maintain our accreditation status with the Florida and National Main Street. Accreditation does require attending quarterly trainings across Florida, participating in the national conferences, often out of state, and paying annual membership fees. These are essential, and they also are very expensive. And without additional support, we do risk falling behind. With this additional investment, the city wouldn't just be funding operations, you'd be directly funding the businesses, events, and people who keep the Deuces alive, while ensuring we remain in good standing as a nationally recognized Main Street program. Every dollar you provide is multiplied through grants, sponsorships, and private partnerships. So with the additional, we can sustain our leadership, strengthen our programming, and keep the small businesses on the corridor thriving, one at a time, the city's most historic corridor ever. So thank you for your leadership and for considering the request.
Next two speakers, Alan Isidro and Rena Lester. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alan, and my residency is until 61 7th Avenue in Largo. I am a student at the St. Petersburg College program. It's more specifically the public administration program. I am in my last year.
Could you just give us your last name?
Oh, Isidro. Yes.
Thank you.
I am in my last year, and for my policy leadership class, we had an assignment to meet with an expert and create a case study project regarding a city council meeting. I was interested in attending St. Petersburg City Council meeting today and hearing about budget proposal. I reached out to the city clerk for some guidance to finding an expert that I can talk to about the budget proposal. I had the opportunity to talk with the budget director, Elizabeth, yesterday. She's great, she's amazing, and I appreciate her taking the time to discuss the city proposed budget. She's very kind and knowledgeable. We discussed the details and procedures of how the city proposed budget gets put together. I'm here to say that I support the recommended budget proposal. I did my research and spoke with the budget director, Elizabeth. Funding things like education, youth opportunities, neighborhood safety, and along with other services are crucial for a city to run successfully. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rena Lester. I'm a new homeowner. My mother is here with me. She's 72 years old.
What's your address, ma'am?
Our address is 2142 Oakley Avenue South. That's in Midtown. The things that I would like to address with you is affordable housing. It's wonderful to have a home when it took a lifetime to receive it, but also at the same time, we have now been stricken with the property tax, which I never thought it would be that strenuous on anyone. So I'm asking each and every one of you to think about, if you have a mother, like I do, if you went without for many things, many years, and that you had to start all over without a job during the pandemic, and when you had to use all your resources to find affordable housing. And what I mean by that, that my mother stayed in a place for 24 years where the rent kept increasing year by year. And as her daughter, I said, there's a way out. We've got to find it. So I took my resources to carry my mother through and step out on faith to go through the programs that you offer for affordable housing. Now the issue is property tax. How is it fair that for someone who has limited income to have a huge property in tax? Just because someone sold their house for $400,000 doesn't mean that I can afford the tax bill for that person. I think that you guys need to take a long look, do a strenuous audit about property tax and value, because it's unfair that we have to endure that. I don't have it easy, but where I stay and where my mother lives in Midtown, I see poverty day by day. I see people that are homeless day by day. I had to put things in place to stop people from taking water that wanted to survive, or to use electric because they didn't have it. I'm not ashamed, but I ask you to take a long look and think about the auditing of the electricity and the suffering of our people. Our children do not have enough, because if they don't have enough, they come and steal, they'll kill, they'll sell drugs, and they'll continue if we do not look back for them. It starts with us as an adult. My mother is 72 years old. It took a long time for me to understand what it is to work, to earn, and to give. But I'm asking you, look at the bigger picture here and think about our children for our future, and our adults and our senior citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more speakers, madam.
No more speakers?
We have one person in Zoom, but since this is a public hearing, there's no Zoom.
Okay. The public comment portion of the hearing.
Chair, I think there might
Oh.
be somebody just came in.
Somebody just came in. Okay, hold on.
Kathleen Span and
Go ahead, ma'am.
Max McCann, can you finish completing that?
Hi there, I'm Kathleen Span. I live at 3800 29th Ave North. I've lived there since 1996 by myself. I'm here to talk about the water rates going up. Like I said, I've lived there 96 by myself. I don't use any more water now than I did then. And my water bill is higher than my electric bill. And that's unheard of. So I heard her saying about her mother and stuff like that, affordability and stuff. Is there any way to grandfather people in that have lived here 25 years in their homes and nothing's changed, to keep those rates down some for them, so they don't have to each year come up with more money to pay these bills, pay the rent, pay the electric and all that stuff? You know, we've paid our due. Like I said, I've been there almost 35, 40 years. Nothing's changed. And I know you say it's for progress and stuff like that, but all the development that you're having downtown, put it in those impact fees for these people. And their condos have water included. And you know they're using tons of water, so make their bills higher. They want to live downtown in luxury buildings and stuff like that. Have that happen. You know, as far as maintenance, I've lived in that same house. I have never seen anybody come out to try to fix the drainage in my neighborhood, either the gutters or anything like that. And I live in one of the highest parts. And last year when the hurricanes came in, the whole neighborhood got flooded. And of course, I said stuff didn't get open and drainage and this and that. Always something happens. But if you're going to charge for that, at least come and do maintenance in the neighborhoods, as they said. Fix the roads, fix the stuff that needs to be done. So that's all I'm trying to say, is help the people that have been here forever, keep the costs down so they'll stay here forever and not have to go to affordable housing and not have to do that. That's it.
Thank you.
We're done. All right, come on. Stand right here. Hi, good evening, everybody. Max McCann and Sloan McCann, 2648 3rd Avenue South. Just want to quickly ask council and the administration to increase funding for Safe Streets projects. After my family and I moved here, the cost of our auto insurance doubled overnight, and I soon found out why when a Jeep ran a red light and crashed into our little Prius and totaled it out with Sloan in the car too. My wife hurt her back, I hurt my back. Luckily, Sloan is made of rubber and was okay. Is that true? Yeah, but she talked about it for weeks. It was still traumatizing for her, even though she wasn't physically injured. So we've got a problem. We've got a real problem. We've got a crisis hiding in plain sight here. We've got a similar population to Arlington, Virginia, but we have 5 times the number of fatalities. I never use the word accident because these are not accidents, they're policy failures. We have the power to make our streets safer. Past administrations have chosen not to. We've chosen to prioritize speed over safety, and it's time we turn that around. I think there's a lot of benefit to funding our own projects instead of relying on state funding, because that has some drawbacks that we've seen lately. So let's do this with our own money. We don't have to wait on projects like 28th Street. Recently, a couple months ago, a cyclist was hit by a driver on 28th Street. We've been planning a complete streets project there for 5 years. If we had moved faster, we could have prevented that, I believe. I can't prove that, but I believe it. So we do some good stuff, though. We do a bike to school event for Sloan School. Councilmember Floyd and Councilmember Givens have joined us on that. Do you want to invite anybody?
If you go to Perkins or Sanderlin, it starts at Bandit.
Bandit Coffee. That's right. You're all welcome to join us, whether you
What
have
time
kids
does it
there or not.
start?
8:40.
It starts at 8:40.
All right. Great. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. No more speakers.
Raise it up.
Okay. So at this point, the public comment portion of the hearing is now closed. And now we enter council comments, discussion, and consideration of any amendments. Councilmember Driscoll.
Thank you, and thanks to all who took the time to come out tonight to speak and to remind us of what our job is. It can be really difficult because even though we have a strong budget, it's impossible to fund everything that everybody wants. This year in particular, we've had to make some tough decisions. A couple of things that I heard tonight, I would like to have consideration made. And this is something that perhaps we can look at when we get into the budget cleanup process. We'll start with the last thing first. I agree that we need to put as much possible into making our streets safer for everyone. And in the Citywide Infrastructure Capital Improvement Fund, we do have some funding here for complete streets, sidewalk improvements. There could be some money that we can find tonight to put into that. And I know Complete Streets is actually in 2 different funds, but that is something that I would like for us to consider. I'm looking forward to hearing from my colleagues on all of these things. The Main Streets program is something that's very important to me. Having a robust small business infrastructure throughout these Main Street programs is it's not just good for a business, but it's one of those things that really highlights the unique aspects of different neighborhoods in our city. In past years, I've asked for increased funding for the Main Streets programs. I think it's been a while since we've increased the funding for those. And it's getting harder and harder for the folks who run our Main Streets programs in our city to really make ends meet and move the ball forward for the sake of the businesses that rely on them. So when we get to cleanup, I would like some consideration for an increase for all of those Main Streets programs. There is, I had asked the administration, they provided a list of all of the different ways that we fund youth programs. And while I believe we can be proud of the amount of funding that we have. I think the real challenge, I think what we need to take a closer look at is how is that money being spent? Is it working? What are the outcomes? And should we invite our residents who have been speaking on this for so long, pleading with us to help our youth, and ask them to help us with solutions? Because for all of what we're spending on youth programming right now, it sounds like we could do a heck of a lot better than we are. And the people who are bringing their voices to City Council time after time deserve to be heard, deserve to be at the table, and deserve to be part of the solutions. So while I'm not going to ask for a change to the funding on that, I would like to put that under a magnifying glass and really look at how we might be able to reimagine our youth programs so that it meets the needs of today. And I will be following up on that, so I will give that commitment tonight. The one big thing that I am still having an issue with, and I got a few, but I gotta I gotta pick something here, and I am still having a really hard time with the way that we have reduced funding for different aspects of the fire department. Today is the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. On that day, 343 firefighters lost their lives running towards danger to help others get out. To put that into perspective, as of today, St. Petersburg Fire Rescue's sworn strength number is 355. Imagine losing every single firefighter in our city.
And suffered the greatest loss of all. All 15 firefighters from that firehouse lost their lives. They left that station to go and help, and not a single one of them came back. Dozens more have died since 9/11. Dozens of firefighters have died from illnesses due to the toxic environment that they endured while they were conducting their rescue efforts. Many others did survive, but their lives were changed in ways that we can't even imagine. One of those firefighters, his name was Chief Peter Gansey. He was the highest ranking uniformed firefighter for the Fire Department of New York on that day. He was scheduled for jury duty. Someone was giving him a ride, one of the other firefighters was giving him a ride to jury duty, and they heard what happened, and they shot down to the site. And he set up command and started ordering people and getting things going. He and others were crushed when the South Tower collapsed. And they dug themselves out and immediately went to the North Tower, where he set up another spot. And it was he who told Mayor Giuliani to get out. He died when the North Tower collapsed. So we have our own Chief Gansey here, and when I read stories about 9/11 and about the firefighters, and especially Chief Peter Gansey, it makes me think of Rich and all of the other firefighters who serve us. Many of the firefighters died that day because they had bad equipment. They had a faulty communication system, and the radios that they used weren't sufficient enough for many of them to hear the evacuation order. They didn't know. Many of them didn't even know that the other tower had been hit. As I've read about this, there are some who say that the reason that they had that bad equipment was because the powers that be decided to put off getting the most updated equipment to them. There's no telling how many lives would have been saved if they had had the right equipment to get the message to turn around and get out. So I think about that, and I look at what we have before us today, this proposed budget. And when I see that we've had, in our fire department, we've had positions that have been cut, when I see that the funding for the firefighters' protective bunker gear has been cut, that doesn't sit well with me. It shouldn't sit well with anyone. A couple of days ago, we received a letter from the union leader stating that these things were not needed. It came as a surprise to me because for weeks, this was someone who had been wholeheartedly supportive of my efforts to get this funding restored. And then a couple days ago, I get a letter saying we don't need any of that stuff. We just voted on their contract last week, so I'll let you connect the dots there. But I have had conversations with the people who are actually living this work. And I can tell you that they have told me some of the statements in that letter are simply not true.
But less than $1.2 million is allocated towards combating food insecurity. That's a drop in the bucket. So I just, again, want to make sure that we are prioritizing those hardest hit areas, those food deserts, which a majority of them are within District 6 and 7. And I'm thinking about the St. Pete Housing Authority. The American Red Cross has a program that they've offered to help with combating food insecurity, starting a fresh food pantry to give access to those residents, healthy and nutritious food. Just again, want to make sure that our budget is reflective of our values. As we talk about issues and problems that continue to fester, we have some solutions, some low-hanging fruit, and I certainly think that's one that's worth investing in. Also, speaking of education and youth opportunities, Story 727, that is an organization that trains at-risk youth, specifically workforce development. I certainly think if there is room in the budget for additional grants for youth development, I understand we have our Clan Bayou program, we have the Bullseye, USF Bullseye program, but there's so many more opportunities for us to step in and to help aid our community partners who are focused on giving our kids something productive to do. I know idle hands are the devil's playground. And the city can't be in the business of providing programming and facilitating that programming, but we can certainly fund those organizations that do. I see a couple of them here today. And I certainly want to support those efforts if we can. And then also along the lines of education, I know that there was a pause, and I'm going to pause for a minute to give administration opportunity to respond to this one, on funds from the previous administration. I think there was about $8 million in funds for digital equity, and I know DEI is under attack. But I just wanted to know where we stood with those funds. Do we anticipate receiving them? And if so, how can we invest in those community partners that are actually out there trying to close that digital equity gap? I'm thinking about CodeBox, right? They're providing training, workforce training, actually helping to reach those goals and take us to that next level for economic development. I'm thinking about the Community Tech House. This is a Midtown-centered community tech organization that's providing training and technology literacy for the community. So I just want to know